where we have real conversations about leadership, conflict, and authentic living. I'm your host, Cardel Salmon-Mair, and today we're kicking off a brand new series on a topic that so many of us wrestle with: people pleasing. Let me ask you this. Have you ever said yes at work, at home, or even in church when everything inside of you is screaming, no? You didn't want to take on that extra project and you didn't want to stay late again, but you said yes anyway. But on the outside, you looked agreeable. On the inside, you were drained, maybe even to the point of feeling resentful. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is people pleasing. And it's one of the most silent but damaging conflict we deal with every day. In this first episode, we're going to unpack what people pleasing really is and why so many of us get caught in it, and how it silently sabotages our peace, our relationships, and even our leadership. I'll also share a story from my own leadership experience that showed me why saying no can be one of the healthiest things a person can do. And by the end of this episode, I hope you'll see why peacekeeping is not the same as peacemaking, and how shifting that perspective can set you free. So let's start by painting the picture. What does people pleasing actually look like? Let me tell you. It's the employee who always says yes to every request, even when their plate is already overflowing. It's the church member who volunteers for everything because they don't want to disappoint the pastor. It's the friend who never speaks up about what they want because guess what? They'd rather keep everyone else happy. On the surface, it looks like kindness. It looks like generosity. But here's the catch. People pleasing, it doesn't come from a place of freedom. Guess where it comes from? It comes from deep inside of us, a place of fear. Serving from love, it fills us up. But serving from fear, it empties us. And the tricky thing is, from the outside, the actions, they look the same because two people can both say yes, one because they want to help, and the other because they're terrified of what will happen if they say no. That's the heart, ladies and gentlemen, of people pleasing. It's not about the yes. It's never about the yes. It's always about the motive behind it. So let me take you into a story from my own leadership journey that I once worked with someone, and for anonymity, let's call her Monica. Monica was what you might call the yes person. If we needed someone to stay late, Monica would say yes. If it's a last minute project came in, guess what? Monica would volunteer. If co-workers needed help, yes, you got it. Monica was always there. From the outside, she looked like the perfect team player, dependable, reliable, no complaints. But here's what I started noticing. Monica said no. She never said no, sorry. She never said no, not once. And that's not normal. Everyone has limits. Don't you know? Everyone has limits. I hope you do. Everyone has boundaries. So I started to wonder, was she really okay? Or was she just trying to please everyone? As her leader, I began paying closer attention. I started to notice the fatigue in her eyes. I noticed she was quieter in meetings. She was still performing, don't get me wrong, but the spark wasn't there anymore. Now, let me pause right here And let me ask you, listeners out there, think about this. Do you know a Monica? Or a better question is, are you a Monica? Always smiling, always agreeable, but quietly burning out on the inside. One day I pulled her aside and said, Monica, are you managing okay? You always say yes, but I don't want you to burn out. And ladies and gentlemen, that simple question opened the floodgates. She admitted she was exhausted. She was missing family dinners and feeling like she couldn't say no without letting people down. And when she said it out loud, she almost whispered it as if saying, I can't keep doing this was in itself dangerous. Now, here is where it got real. She also confessed that growing up, saying no was never an option. In her house, no meant disrespect. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen? No meant punishment. So she carried that lesson into adulthood. Saying no where Monica was concerned in her household equaled rejection. Her inner voice went something like this. If I say no, they'll think I'm not a team player. If I don't volunteer, they'll think I'm lazy. If I set boundary, I lose respect. Sounds familiar to anyone out there? I told her, you don't have to earn respect by saying yes. If anything, I'd respect you more for always telling me the truth. Not long after, another request came across her desk. And for the very first time, she said no. And within that time, she started to brace herself for disappointment because she thought that I would be disappointed in her. But instead, I told her, thank you, Monica, for being honest. I'd rather you give me a healthy no than a resentful yes. That was the turning point for Monica because she realized that boundaries don't destroy trust, they build it. And here's what I realized. As leaders, one of the best gifts that we can give people is the permission to say no. Now let's look at this reflection prompt. Where in your life are you saying yes when you need to be saying no? So let's look at why do we fall into people pleasing as individuals. Firstly, there's a fear of rejection. We believe that if we say no, people won't like us anymore, or they'll think less of us. So we trade authenticity for approval. Secondly, there's a need for acceptance. Approval feels like the oxygen that we breathe. But let me tell you something. If you're living for it, you're always going to be gasping for air. And thirdly, we confuse peacekeeping with peacemaking. Peacekeeping says, don't rock the boat. Keep everything looking calm. Sweep the conflict under the rug. It looks peaceful on the outside, but it's fake peace. Because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? When you lift that rug up, under the rug, there's a pile of resentment, a load of stress, and unspoken frustration. Peacemaking, on the other hand, says, let's deal with this honestly. It might be uncomfortable, but we'll address it with respect so we can move forward in truth. Here's the problem. People pleasing is peacekeeping. It avoids conflict, but never solves the problem. It never solves the conflict. So let's look at this scripture. Galatians 1 verse 10 says, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Let that simmer within your soul. Now, a reflection question for you. Have you ever kept saying yes just to avoid conflict only to create a bigger conflict within yourself. Think about that. Let's shift the perspective and look at the different perspective from the practical no arena. Here's the shift I want you to make. Saying yes when you mean no is dishonesty. It's lying to yourself and it's unfair to others because guess what? They never get to see the real you. A healthy no makes room for a wholehearted yes. So when Monica learned to say no, she didn't lose respect. Actually, she gained it. Now, I can hear some of you out there asking, okay, Cardel, but how do I actually say no without sounding rude, selfish, or unspiritual? Great question. Let me give you some practical notes. Let me give you some scripts that when you're in a situation that you don't want to say yes, how you can overcome that. In the workplace, they may ask you to do something and you're overloaded. You could say, that's a great project, but I don't have the capacity to give it the attention it deserves right now. In your church, in ministry, another script. I'd love to help, but I need to step back this season to stay healthy and present. In your family, a family script could go something like this when they ask you to do something and you're overloaded. I care about you, but I can't commit to that right now. Those are simple, respectful, but honest. Now, think about this, a role play in your head. If Monica had used one of these lines earlier, instead of taking on extra project, she could have said, I'd love to contribute, but I'm at full capacity right now. She might have been nervous, but the world wouldn't have ended, not at all. In fact, she might have gained respect sooner than later. Now, look at this fun stuff, just for fun. You can even add humor, a little humor, when someone is pressuring you to say yes. You can smile and say, listen, my yes tank is on E. I need to refuel before I can commit to anything else. That was lighthearted, clear to the point. I can't take this project on, and do it with some humor. Remember this, peace is not pretending everything is fine while your soul is on fire. Peace is standing in truth even when it makes you uneasy. No is not rejection. No is redirection. So let's look at people pleasing in different arenas. Let's zoom out for a moment because people pleasing shows up everywhere. It shows up in the workplace. It shows up all over, in ministry, in church. So in the workplace, you say, because you're afraid of losing opportunities, you say yes. In your families, because you don't want to disappoint your loved ones, you say yes. In church ministry, you say yes because you confuse serving with overextending yourselves. Different arenas, but the same root cause. The root cause is fear and looking for approval addiction. Now, reflection. Which arena pulls you into people pleasing the most? I'm asking you that question. And let's reflect. Let me answer the questions that you're probably asking right now. I can just go into your mind and see what you're asking. And you may ask, Cardel, what if saying no costs me my job? And I would say to you, saying yes to everything will cost you anyway, in health, in burnout, in quality, and you would suffer. Healthy boundaries often make you more respected employee, makes you a more respected employee. What if saying no hurts someone's feelings? That's what you may say. But I would say to you, you can't control people's feelings. You can only control whether you're truthful or deceptive. Respect outlasts disappointment. The respect will outlast the disappointment that they may have in that time frame. So today we learned that people pleasing, it isn't kindness. It looks like love, but it drains authenticity. It creates resentment and damages relationships. The story of Monica showed us that saying no doesn't take away respect, it actually builds it. And whether you're the one who struggles to say no or the leader who notices someone who never does, the truth is this: peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict, it never does. It comes from addressing it with honesty and love. So, the next time on the Harmony Exchange podcast, we'll dive into boundaries, how to say no without guilt, and why boundaries actually strengthen, not weaken relationships. So, ladies and gentlemen, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with a colleague, a friend, or someone you know who struggles with always saying yes. And don't forget to subscribe, though, so you don't miss the next episode of the next series. Please remember to drop your answers in the comment section, as I will be reading them and looking forward to the engagement. Until then, remember, transformation begins when we stop pleasing people and start living in our truth. Transformation begins when we stop pleasing people and start living in our truth. Until then,